On this episode, we're going to go and get to know your host. So welcome to Lock N Load Podcast. My name is Josh.
And I'm Michele.
And we're here today to talk to you about 2A issues. More importantly, today we're talking about, I guess, us. So this is sponsored by Lock N Load Firearms and PatriotWear holsters.
So you guys have been watching our episodes. You guys have been following our podcast. We figured it was time that you got to know a little bit about us and what brings us to this point in having a podcast. So Josh, tell us about yourself.
So tell you about myself.
Yes.
So let's start with the Lock N Load story. So again, my name's Josh. I own Lock N Load Firearms. How did I get into this? We'll go with the shorter version. It's not going to be that short though. So back when I was 22, one of my now former friends was like, "Hey, do you want to get your pistol permit?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So took a pistol permit class.
Did you grow up with guns?
No.
Okay.
Like my dad always had a gun.
Okay.
But he's one of those guys where like he still doesn't have his permit.
Okay.
He took the permit class.
Yeah.
And just sits in the house. So yeah, never around guns, never had like grandparents that were around like with guns or anything. So I took the pistol permit class back when I was 22. Got my pistol permit, shortly after that, right around, I think it was like 7 weeks for Southington at the time. Mm-hmm. And then that same friend was like, "Hey, do you want to help me with pistol permit classes?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." A little extra side money, something different to do. So we started doing that. We were trying to grow a business, and we'll just publicly say that failed due to his tendencies.
All of us have a failure under our belt along the way.
Yeah. So I moved on. At that time, I was working for an armored truck company based out of New Britain. Those giant red ones you see driving around all over the place. And during that time, I revamped into my own business. So at that time, for the old business, I had control over social media and our website. So after the falling out, we'll call it, I had control of that. So I took down the Facebook page. You can unpublish a page.
Yes.
I deleted all the old content, came up with a name, changed the name, republished it. So I already had a solid, 1,500 followers on there.
What was the name at the time?
It was Central Connecticut Firearms Training,
Okay.
which then got into confusion with Central Connecticut Arms, because apparently firearms training and arms are the same word. So people would call up and I'd be like, "No, I'm not the gun store, man. You have got to call them." Mm-hmm. For all intents and purposes, like Southington is pretty central. So, and there's a ton of Central Connecticut somethings.
Oh,
out
absolutely.
there. So I liked the name at the time, but I knew like I definitely couldn't do that for an LLC. I had as an LLC. I couldn't do that for like my FFL because that was going to get too complicated.
Right.
So when COVID happened, I was no longer working for the armor truck company. I quit exactly 3 years to the day. And then ended up working for another security company as a site supervisor. And I was always doing classes as a side gig, right? I was working a full-time job, and I do like a class every other Saturday or Sunday. I was renting the Residence Inn, their gathering room that was over there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I was paying them, depending on the class size, because I had 2 rooms, $75 to like $150 to rent the room.
And then you had range fees.
Yeah, and then range fees too.
Wow.
So it was kind of expensive. But when COVID happened, and like the lockdown part of it happened, all the hotel events stopped.
Right.
So then I got the bigger room at the cheaper rate because I was the only game in town that was renting.
So they still let you rent it?
Yeah.
Yep. How cool is that?
So that was nice. And then I quit that job and I started doing classes full time because of the demand. I was working a full-time job from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. Thursday through Monday.
Okay.
And then I was teaching gun classes at 8 o'clock in the morning on 4 hours of sleep. It was rough. It was rough for a period of time. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. And I was making really good money with the pistol permit classes. So I quit. Downside was I lost my insurance. So then I have to pay for my own insurance. Still do that to this day. Not after next month, though.
Marriage has its perks.
Yep, and Harvard Healthcare. Good insurance. And so I needed more help. And I had a few buddies that, were laid off from COVID aspects, and they were like, sure. Some of them were still working full time, but they wanted extra money. And I had 5 other people working for me at the time.
Wow.
So we were a team of 6.
Well, there was a huge rush during COVID for classes. Like they couldn't sign up fast enough
I was
that time period.
at one point. I was booking people a month and a half out because I was just sold out to capacity, and I always oversold, kind of like an airline.
Yep.
Because statistically, and it's still to this day, people don't show up. You pay the deposit. My policy for a long time has been non-refundable, non-transferable.
Yep.
Right? So non-refundable. You don't show up, you don't contact me, I keep your money. Non-transferable, I've made exceptions, and I do make exceptions for that on a case-by-case basis, right? If you had COVID, obviously I was going to let you rebook in a class in 2 to 3 weeks later. But if it was a BS excuse, probably not.
Well, because that's a seat that you could have put somebody else into. So I get that.
Especially because I had the demand.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So I would get anywhere from 3 to 6 students per class of a sold-out class that did not show up.
Wow.
And we were running 30-person classes.
Holy crap.
Had the instructors.
Yeah, that's true.
So the range we were going to, we would grab 2 lanes. So that takes your 30 students basically down to 15 students.
Correct.
And that's manageable.
Yep.
And there was always, when we had those large classes, there was a minimum of 3 instructors, if not a 4th.
Now, at that time, were you doing NRA or were you doing USCCA?
NRA.
Okay.
So it was pretty easy curriculum. When we had those 4 instructors, one would be shooting with one group, one would be shooting with the other group, one would just be loading ammunition constantly the entire time, and then switch out. And then I would be there schmoozing people. I would bring them in, I'd bring them out, I'm giving their certificates, I'd talk to them, I'd answer more questions, I made sure they weren't clogging up the hallway, because that happened all the time. I'd introduce them to the staff that was there too, just to, give them a good customer service feeling.
Make them feel welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were pretty efficient, which is a key in this, is the efficiency, especially at the range. I try to do things, I try to value people's time. As much as I value money, I also value time. It's a big thing.
Yep.
Time is something you can't get back.
Well, you don't want your time wasted, but you don't want to waste somebody else's either.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So from May 2020 to November 2020, we taught 2,200 students. And that is what afforded me to open Lock N Load Firearms. So in August of 2020 that year, I ended up leasing my now retail side of the building as a classroom.
Okay.
I had 35 people signed up for August 1st, and the landlord was nice enough so I was able to set things up prior to that because it was just an empty space beforehand.
Okay.
It was nobody used the space for 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
So he just used it as storage.
Okay.
So he cleared out his stuff, and August 1st had my first class here. I learned really quickly how poor this parking lot is. It is not designed for 30 cars. I've had more in this classroom side though. So that was great. And then I was like, I'm teaching all these students. Why am I sending them to another store? So I applied for what was called my federal firearms license, an FFL. And then jumping through some town hoops, not many, surprisingly, just a few. I was able to get my FFL. My IOI was Mary, super nice lady. I just talked to her the other day, had a question.
What is an IOI?
Industry operations. I don't know.
She's under the ATF, so that's your ATF person, right?
Yeah. What does the IOI stand for? That's what I thought she was asking me, and then she was just like,
no, because IOI, I just wanted to bring it back to the ATF. So that's your
that was,
federal ATF person.
Yeah, that's my ATF contact. She set up the FFL and everything. Super nice lady. Never met her in person, actually.
Okay, that was my next question, because I didn't know if she came out or if you did the online.
It was all online because of COVID.
Okay.
It was through, it wasn't even Zoom, it was Skype. I can't even think of Skype anyway. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Zoom was taken off, but it was Skype. So.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, we did all that stuff. and then got the store, like, while we're doing that, you have to go and get the alarming because that's a state requirement. We ended up putting bars in the window too and on the door. We've upgraded our bars on the window too. We did that maybe a year and a half ago or so. The door is solid. I like my door. That was day one. So once we got the FFL, in our hands, we then had to go and find wholesalers. That was a fun adventure. Luckily, at the time, I had friends that were working at other stores. I didn't know Michele yet. So I got into my wholesalers, and at the time, it was really hard to get guns.
Especially as a new FFL person.
Yeah. I was on RSR Group's website, and I remember, like, now there are probably tens of thousands of guns in open inventory. There were zero. It would come up and be gone. And they didn't care about me because, like, they had customers that were spending money for years with them. So why are they going to care about the new fish?
Yeah.
So I made a few connections out there through, like, Gun Broker. I got some, like, sort of wholesaler rates with some other guys that were just flipping guns.
Oh, cool.
Right. So, like, he was an FFL and he would send them to me. He would make a quick, $30-$40 on the gun, and I would make a long, $70 on the gun.
Yeah.
So I was able to get stuff into the store. Ammo I was always pretty good with.
Really?
Yeah, again, using
That
technology.
was hard.
So being younger, I think I was, and I don't know how I can confirm this, but I think I was the youngest gun store owner in Connecticut. I was 2020, so I was 27, 26, depending on the time. I don't know if there are any other younger ones. I'm 30 now, so I still might be.
So you went from getting a pistol permit at 22 to owning a gun store by 27 at the latest there.
Yeah.
Holy cow, good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was an adventure. It still is. So I was good at getting ammo. And while ammo prices were super expensive at one point, at one point, and you guys can go check out our reviews on Google. There's a few 1-stars. 2 of them are about a shirt that we produced. That was a political one. 2 of them have to do with the price of ammo. They came in on the same day in the middle of COVID and complained about the cost of .380 ammo.
Oh.
Stores didn't have any ammo.
And if they did, it was astronomical.
Yeah, it was $55 a box.
Yeah.
But I put up the invoice that it cost me right next to it to be like, this is how much I paid for it. This is how much I'm making. Plus, like, expenses, employees, upkeep, the building. Like, I was making $5 a box. That's on $50 box of ammo. That's nothing.
No, what is that, 5%?
And then I lose money on credit card fees, which is just a percent, not like a dollar amount. But whatever.
A lot of people don't understand that aspect. A lot
of people don't understand business.
Right.
So, we have reconfigured the store side 8 times now.
I know.
It was in my classroom, and then where my office used to be was my sales floor. I had 2 cases in there. And then once I started doing too many sales, and the classes started to die down, we flip-flopped that. That little room was my classroom. 10 people in there. It was the hottest room in the building.
You're cozy.
So, well, no. That, you turn the heat on, that room heats up first. The whole sales floor is still 50 degrees. In there, it's 80.
Oh, with bodies?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So I knew that wasn't a long-term solution. So in July 2021, I ended up leasing this side, which is my classroom side, which is now my classroom, podcast, and horrible storage mess. What Nick doesn't know is he's going to have to organize all that.
I was going to say, we're going to have to talk about this.
We're getting there. So that was July 2021. Finally got this side done. And then we've had both sides ever since. I am now a fully stocked store. I carry just about every brand with the exception of like HK and some CZs.
Why don't you carry HK?
Because HK fanboys are super specific in what they want.
You're right. So
I would rather just order what they want. Like, take the VP9, for example. Not the VP9B. Let's take that out of the equation. There are 5 different colors for VP9s, and then out of each of those, there's 2 different 10-round SKUs. That's 10 guns, guys, for 1 model.
Yep.
Nope, not stocking that. I'll order you whatever you want, okay? It'll be here in 2 to 3 days.
There you go.
Shipping's pretty quick, but that and the same thing with CZs. They're pretty specific, too.
Understood.
So, but we carry a ton of everything else. Obviously, all the SIGs, the Glocks, a lot of Smith & Wessons, not all of them. A lot of Rugers, not all of them. But like we carry everything from like Taurus to Kimbers to Desert Eagles. We even have those in stock too.
Bunch of different 1911s.
A lot of 1911s, a lot of rifles now. So when HB 6667 happened, we had a pivot. Right, I had to figure out that loss of income. So we got our SOT, which is how we sell suppressors. So we now do that. We now have our fingerprinting software set up, so we can do that on site. We do your passport photos, all of that, the e-forms, and then we pivoted to more long guns. So instead of selling lowers, which is an argument selling them still, I choose not to. We sell more long guns. Like yesterday, we had every Ruger Mini 14 that they make. That's Connecticut compliant, and the Mini 30s in stock. We have the PC9 carbines. We have some M1As. We have some M1 Grands too. Lever action, shotguns. So like I pivoted from, I used to have maybe 5 shotgun or long guns in stock to now I have, I don't know, 3 dozen or so, if not more.
Well, you also have a lot of accessories, and you still have uppers.
Yeah, we still have uppers.
So
we still have the parts for the lowers, too. I haven't ordered in a while. It was basically what's back stock that's been in here. But, yeah, we're starting to now see people start to buy some parts. And we'll probably see that through the end of the year with, like, Christmas and finishing their builds, especially with, like,
with the way the registration went through, people are now coming back and going, oh, okay, now I'll build it.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm sure we'll see that. We'll start doing a few more orders at the Arrow again. But that's basically the story. I guess one more caveat to that is, sure, we'll say this. Back shortly after I opened, maybe the store-wise, so maybe 2021 sometime, this company called U.S. Law Shield came in. And the manager and the regional manager came in, and I just saw them at like CCDL. So I was like, oh, you know what? It's something I probably should look into. And we became partners with them. Long story short, after the end of that year, USCCA came in. Upper management from Law Shield at that time, not anymore. That person no longer works for the company, which is a good thing. At that time, was very rude. And that's not a way to do business. So I ended up going with USCCA, and that was my next big step. So with USCCA being a certified instructor as well, and an official partner with them, we do free classes here, which also helps me get what they call door turns or door spins. So Monday, for example, we had a class, and that got in, it was only like 7 or 8 people, but that have never been to the store before.
Yep.
So that helps me bring in more customers, which helps expand my customer base, which consequently expands the business.
Well, and I think both USCCA and U.S. Law Shield are good organizations for gun owners.
Yep. Both of them
they do kind of the same, but then different also.
Yep.
So, you know, it's good that you have the experience with both.
And I mean, I still promote both. Like, obviously, I promote USCCA a little bit more because
you're a partner.
I'm an official partner with them. But I also promote Law Shield depending on what the circumstances is and what the financial aspect is too there, because Law Shield's a little cheaper. Both are good, and they're both different at the same. They're the same and different at the same time.
Yeah.
So that was like the next step. It was really cool when we went to SHOT Show last year. And so they had like an exclusive party, right? We'll call it cocktail hour. I don't know. It was at a beer garden. So like that was a free event to do at night. It was like free hors d'oeuvres and free beer. It was a little cold. I didn't think it was going to be that cold.
It was cold last year at SHOT Show.
Yeah,
it was cold.
So that was like a cool little perk of it. As well, and then knowing different people and, you know, meeting different people out there too. And I am really excited to see what the future holds. I definitely want to expand. My next probably phase in the business in general is to find a bigger location, because I'm not going to say we're running out of room. We ran out of room. And then after that, realistically, I want to open a range. That's a really big expense. So if anybody out there got a lot of money, come talk. But that's the third phase, I would call it.
Those are not bad goals.
Yeah.
Not bad goals at all.
So that's how I showed up and opened a gun store.
Do you like it?
Most of the time.
Okay.
There are headaches. There are definitely headaches in this. But most of the time I do. Most of the time I enjoy coming into work. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy talking to the customers most of the time. I like the spinoff that we've had with the podcast here. So that's something that's, giving a little more life into it. Kind of turning in a side project, turning into hopefully a bigger project. But yeah, I guess I would say I like it 90% of the time.
Did you see yourself in the firearms field when you were, thinking about what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I try not to swear on here, but fuck no. I have a degree in computer programming, which some of you know and some of you don't. I have an associate's degree in computer programming from Tunxas, and a certificate in programming and networking from them as well. And then I continued on to CCSU for computer science. Didn't end up finishing that. So no,
okay.
I did not think this was in the cards, and it kind of just happened.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what your degree is and what your education is also very helpful.
It is.
In a gun store, so that helps.
It is, and like even classes I've taken back then, even a class I took in high school I use to this day, which is really surprising, which is just learning how to use Publisher. Like that's how I make my ads for Facebook for like the pistol permit classes. Something that, you've not necessarily is going to help me now, but like it helped me then, but it helps me now. So some of those classes really come back and hit back the programming aspect. I maintained my website up until about a year ago. And then I just decided to pay somebody, to do it. And to get a little
easier.
bit that and to also expand on the SEOs because I wasn't able to do that under my old hosting software.
Yep.
And I'm able to do that on this one, so it makes it a little bit easier on that. But I mean, even how I put the podcast together, like Michelle's not technologically sound.
You gotta tell the whole everybody.
Yeah, sorry. So like I do all this.
I have ideas.
She does. Yep.
I bring ideas and he executes ideas.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I don't know how to do the execution.
And sometimes I don't have ideas, and then we just figure it out and do it. So to go back to your question, no, I did not see this happening.
Okay.
And we're here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. You know what? To the future.
Yeah.
Because you're doing what you're doing, and you mostly enjoy what you're doing. You can't ask for more
There's
than that.
always some days where you're just like,
Yeah, that's life.
Well, there's not like going back to my armored truck industry. There was like 10% of the days where I wanted to go to work.
Right.
So we went from like 10% to 90%. Right.
Well,
there's some days where you're just like, no, not today. Don't talk to me.
To get into this so early on in life for you, to find a niche that you enjoy is huge. Because there's people that work their whole life and hate what they did.
Yeah.
My husband worked as a mechanic for 26 years and hated it.
I know. You told me how long it took to change a tire.
Yeah, it's very hard now.
Change brakes.
Yeah. Now he's like, no, I'm no longer a mechanic. Hello? We still have cars.
Right?
We still have cars, dude.
Yeah, and being in here young, right? A lot of the owners, the gun store owners, are older. That's as nice as I could put it. And they don't use technology to their advantage.
Correct.
Like one of my biggest things, and people, all but one customer ever, has complimented how we do our federal forms, which is done on the computer. So like even going back to that, my computer programming aspect, that's how my brain thinks. Like make things easier, make them electronic, and people have really bad handwriting. So when we do everything on the computer, guess what happens? And handwriting is a lot better because it's all typed.
No, absolutely. And you did that from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So it's always easier to start a system in the beginning than try to change over halfway through. Once you have your shop full of
Yeah.
inventory, once you have a certain, method of doing certain things, to have to change it all up is always difficult, not only
Yeah.
for you, but also for the employees, trying to get them on board with a new way of doing things. So you did it right.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll credit Mary from the ATF on that. She was like, "Oh, you can do it, paper bound, or you can do it electronic." And I'm like, "Oh, what's electronic?" And she was like, she gave some examples, and then I Googled, right? And I found one called Gun Store Master. It's worth every penny. I wish I was sponsored to say that. You guys can always give me a coupon code. But worth every penny that I pay for it. And it's not cheap, but it's not expensive, especially for what we can do on it. So it was a really good place to start on. And it does make life a lot easier, especially when we do audits or when we have to look something up for the ATF or whatever the case may be. I can access that book wherever I am.
Yep.
Like on my phone, on my laptop, in the store, whatever. I can access it, so I can look up that info. If like somebody's like, "What's the price of this gun?" Right? That I posted on Facebook. Type. Boop. There it is. Got it. Here's how much it is.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
all right.
I liked hearing your story. That's cool.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I say it a lot to pistol permit classes, so I was a little prepared. Not this long though. This was the more in-depth public option.
This is a get to know you option.
So, I hope you guys enjoyed. I guess that's it. So, my name's Josh,
And I'm Michele.
and I hope you guys enjoyed today. We'll see you guys next time.